I adjusted my veil after she left. My hands were steady, which surprised me. A minute earlier, my sister had stood so close I could smell her perfume as she smiled and whispered, "He's been coming to my place for a year. You're marrying my leftovers." Then she laughed, not loudly, not dramatically, just enough to make it sound like she was sharing a joke only the two of us could understand. When the bridal suite door closed behind her, I looked at myself in the mirror. I expected to see someone falling apart. Instead, I saw someone who had spent months preparing for every detail of this day, and who suddenly realized none of those details mattered as much as the next decision. I could run. I could confront my fiancé in front of everyone. Or I could do what I'd quietly arranged 3 days earlier after a conversation that had left me unsettled. The music outside began. People assumed it meant the ceremony was beginning. They didn't know it also meant a promise I'd made to myself was about to be kept. Months earlier, my sister had started changing around me. She became unusually interested in my relationship. She asked strange questions. Was he staying late at work? Did he still text me every night? Had we argued recently? At first, I thought she was being protective. Then I noticed something else. Whenever she claimed she had been busy, little details didn't match. She mentioned restaurants I'd actually visited with my fiancé. She referenced conversations she shouldn't have known about. None of it proved anything, but it planted doubt. I asked my fiancé directly. He looked confused, then hurt. He offered me every password, every message, every location history. I refused. Trust built through surveillance isn't trust. Still, something felt wrong. Not necessarily with him. With the situation, instead of accusing anyone, I called someone whose job depended on facts rather than assumptions. A licensed private investigator. I didn't ask for dramatic secrets. Only the truth, if there was one. 3 days before the wedding, the investigator called. "We found repeated contact," he said. My stomach dropped, then he continued. "But not between your fiancé and your sister." The truth was stranger. Someone had been using edited screenshots, anonymous messages, and carefully timed encounters to create the illusion of an affair. Most of the stories originated from one person, my sister. The investigator warned me that explaining everything privately would likely become another argument of denial and accusation. "If this affects a legal marriage," he said gently, "make your decision with everyone informed. Secrets are how manipulation survives." So I made one request. Before the vows, I wanted someone to speak, not a relative, not a friend, someone with no emotional stake. The officiant had reluctantly agreed after reviewing the circumstances. As I reached the ceremony doors, guests stood together smiling, completely unaware of what had happened minutes earlier. My fiancé saw my face. Concern crossed his expression. He quietly asked, "Are you okay?" I answered honestly, "I'm about to find out." The ceremony began. The opening words were beautiful, almost painfully ordinary. Then, before the vows, the officiant raised a hand. "There has been a request," he said calmly. "Before these two enter a legal commitment, information relevant to that commitment should be addressed." The garden fell silent. The investigator stepped forward. He introduced himself simply. No dramatic language, no accusations. He explained the scope of his work, the records reviewed with permission, the verified timelines, and the documented attempts to fabricate evidence. He described altered screenshots, anonymous accounts traced back through recoverable records, masks sent to create suspicion, witnesses who unknowingly repeated false assumptions. Every statement was supported, every conclusion was limited to what could actually be proven. No one spoke. My sister's expression changed for the first time that day, not because she had been humiliated, because certainty had disappeared. She tried to interrupt. The officiant stopped her. "You'll have an opportunity to respond," he said evenly. "Please allow the speaker to finish." That was the moment everything shifted. Not because anyone applauded, not because someone shouted, because, for the first time, emotion no longer controlled the room. Facts did. When the investigator finished, he stepped away without another word. The silence lasted several seconds. My fiancé turned toward me. "I should have told you how worried I was becoming about the anonymous messages," he admitted quietly. "I thought protecting you from the stress was the right thing." I nodded. "And I should have told you about the investigation sooner. Neither of us had handled the situation perfectly, but neither of us had betrayed the other." I looked toward my sister. She wasn't crying. She wasn't apologizing. She simply looked like someone who had expected one version of the story and found herself standing inside another. I realized I didn't need revenge. I needed clarity. The ceremony did not continue immediately. The officiant suggested a private pause so both families could process what they had heard before anyone made a lifelong commitment. For nearly an hour, conversations replaced celebration. Some relationships would never fully recover. Trust rarely does after being tested that way. When we finally returned, it wasn't because the schedule demanded it. It was because the decision was ours. The vows felt different than the ones we'd written months earlier, less certain, more honest. They weren't promises that nothing would ever go wrong. They were promises that silence would never replace truth again. There was no triumphant ending, no cheering crowd, only two people who understood that dignity sometimes isn't found in winning an argument. It's found in refusing to let someone else decide your reality.